Well, I've kind of lost track of what part of what video it is, but this might be part 6 or part 7 of the rebuilding of the buzzsaw. But I got involved in getting the old tractor run a little bit better. I've got the Marvel Chevrolet carburetor and sediment bowl completely redone, so it's time to put it back on the old 800 and see what's going to happen. Shed. I've got the tractor on a battery charger because it's just an old battery, but just in case I've got to pull this blade off in order to service it, I thought I would go about the business of loosening up that nut that obviously has not been moved in many a year. And I've taken the liberty of taking a 1 13/16 box end wrench, and I've driven it on that rusty nut. So that's where we're at. That's all the prep work that I've done. What I like to do, I'll go ahead and raise this up and then I'll take me a round rod and set it in that gullet right there instead of a board, and then you can just tap on this. You don't have to hit real hard. Well, sometimes you end up hitting pretty hard, but you know, if you have to hit that hard, you need to use a little bit of heat on the nut. But I just tap on a little bit, kind of a pull boy's impact wrench. We just raise her back up a little bit, stick that back in the gullet. One thing you don't want to do is use a pipe wrench on it, though a lot of people do, and sometimes that's your only option. The only thing I should have done in preparation, I should have taken my angle grinder with a buffing wheel, and I should have buffed all those exposed threads on that arbor. That would make this a whole lot better. As a matter of fact, I might tighten it back up just a little bit and go ahead and get that stretch out electric card and go ahead and do that. No video would be complete without a comment to the safety Nazis. I've got my safety glasses on. I've got my invisible leather gloves on. I've got on my steel-toed tennis shoes, and I've got my UL listed safety approved electric card on my angle grinder. It's for use in wet location. So I'm ready to go. Oh, and I forgot to note that I have the invisible safety guard on the the buffing wheel too. So we're all good to go. Let me clarify a little bit about the pipe wrench. You don't want to use the pipe wrench on the nut. You can't just run over to Central Hardware or whatever, you know, or Home Depot and buy a nut like that, you know, 1 13/16 wrench by 1 inch by 8 threads per inch, or what the heck ever that nut is. So you got to take care of those things. But sometimes, you know, the blade will break loose from the hubs, and you have to use a pipe wrench inside here on the shaft. And that's okay. If you kind of damage the shaft on the inside, doesn't really matter a whole lot, because there's a company called Ready Sleeve, and you can actually shine that shaft up, turn it down a little bit on the lathe if you got one or whatever, and you can slip a Ready Sleeve right over the top of it if it's that important. But typically on these arbors like this, it doesn't matter if you tear them up on the inside, as long as you don't mess up where the wrinkles are or mess up your nut. And I'm sure you can find those nuts, you know, at inventory sales, anything like that. Other types of supply houses will probably have that nut. But you don't want to force yourself in a situation where you've got to go about the business to find them. So at any rate, that's about ready to come off. Now, I didn't intend on taking it off. I was just wanting to get this ready in case I have to remove it to service the blade. But like I said, the battery's on the charger, and I thought I'd take this opportunity. But it got to be so interesting, I decided to go ahead and take it off, clean up that shaft, and make it to where it'll be very simple to get off in the future. So you want to get the nut plumb off. Now remember, I had to drive that wrench on there. Well, I might have driven that on there, not on video, but yeah, I actually had to drive that on with a hammer. So just because it's so rusty and nasty, well, I just take that in and drive that back out of there. And if you look real close, how you probably can't see it, I did not misshape that nut at all by driving it on there. Now our collar will come off of there eventually. But I'll get that blade off and clean that all up, put her back together. Here we are after just a few minutes with the DeWalt 4.5-inch angle grinder with a wire wheel, and we got that shaft looking really good. And then here's the blade. Look how shiny that blade is right underneath where the hubs, the blade hubs were. That's what your blade's supposed to look like all over. This ain't never going to look that good, but hopefully it'll shine up and be a little bit maybe black metal. It'll never be shiny. Now, I know all you guys are aware of anti-seize compound, anti-seize and thread lubricant, but if you got these old pieces of equipment that's going to sit outside, you know, or maybe might not be serviced again for 4 or 5 years, you know, or longer. Anytime you put a nut and bolt together, put anti-seize on it. It's just absolutely amazing how much easier it'll allow you to disassemble it. Now I went ahead and took this inside the shop, and I completely went on the inside with the wire brush, an electric drill, and then a wire wheel on a bench grinder. So yeah, that's shining real well. Now I did nothing to the blade. I did not service the blade at all, but I just wanted to take the time while the battery was charging to get the blade ready to you know, for service in the future. Because I'm gonna go ahead and fire it up, get the tractor warmed up, and put a little bit of work through this here and see how well this is going to perform, and also kind of get a feel on how the tractor is going to run. And so, at any rate, I'm going to tighten this up real quick, and I'll be right back. Okay, carburetor's on, got a little gas in it. I've had the battery charger on for about 45 minutes while I took that blade off. So, we're going to see what happens. Let me flip it up here to boost. Make sure she's in neutral. At least I know it's going to run, so now I got to go about the business of firing him back up again, give me a little bit of adjustment on it, and kind of get him dialed in a little bit. But, okay, so here it is. I think the carburetor rebuild's halfway decent. Got a little bit of tweaking to do. I got to get the engine warmed up, get a little bit of load on it, you know, out there in the wood pile, and see if I can get it to iron out just a little smoother. Kind of got the idle okay. Wide open throttle is still just a little bit off, but that has to do with the main jet. Still good idle. So anyway, you hear a little bit there at wide open throttle, a little bit of lurching and everything. There's an issue with that the main jet. I did not get a main jet in the carburetor kit, and I'm gonna have to go back to Steiner or do a little bit of more of a search and come up with an actual main jet that goes with this particular carburetor. Right now, I've got a main jet in it that's off of a 8N Ford, and obviously the 8N, being such a smaller engine, is going to have a smaller main jet. So it's running okay, but it's not running the way it should. But I'll solve that issue when I get the correct main jet for it. So at any rate, I think maybe we can consider this halfway decent. So we're going to go get that buzzsaw mounted, get it in the wood pile, man. So this is the first real run of the 800 Ford with the rebuilt carburetor, and the makeover on the old buzzsaw, the old Deer Barn buzzsaw. So I have not serviced the blade yet. I did remove the blade so that it would be easier for me to remove and service whenever the time comes. But for now, it's in the condition it was in when I pulled it up out of the woods. We're just going to burn through a couple of pieces of whole wood and see how it performs, and then probably either have to go back to work on the carburetor on the tractor or give attention to the saw blade. So at any rate, here goes nothing. Okay, after running that thing for just a few minutes, I can tell it's probably going to work okay. It's going to be adequate. I'm going to go ahead and service that blade, you know, because it is not sharp at all. You saw when I started going through the about 8-inch pieces, it kind of bogged a little bit, but that's to be expected. That blade has not been touched at all. Whenever I get done, I would expect it to do a lot better than that. But overall, I'm pretty pleased with the performance. There's a little bit of a wide open throttle issue with the tractor yet, and that's a problem with the main jet in the carburetor. I've got the improper main jet in there. I've got one for an 8N Ford, and I need to get the correct one for the 800. The 800 requires just a little bit more gas than that little bitty 8N, so it's kind of suffering and lurching a little bit, trying to run a wide open throttle. But at any rate, until I get to servicing the blade, for now, this is Tractor Man 44, and I am out of here.